who have been on the team in the past only to go on to be superstars like Travis Kelce, Dak Prescott. We got Diggs, Kittle, Smith, and including the Seahawks receiver, Tyler Lockett, Jets receiver, Alan Lazard, Vikings right tackle, Brian O'Neill, also on this team in the past, and the captain of this year's team. It's San Jose State edge, Viliami Feoko, 6'4", 276 pounds with a 33-inch arm. He played a multitude of different positions for the Spartans. He's well experienced, disruptive. He has the ability to be versatile and play from different alignments. Pete Prisco naming him the captain because he claims there isn't a battle that he backs down from. Now, looking at some of the names on the defensive side when it comes to the better than players list, we have linebacker Dee Winters out of TCU, Iowa's Jack Campbell, corner Clark Phillips from Utah, and Aggie safety Antonio Johnson. Now, on the offensive side, of course, DTR out of UCLA, the QB over there. We have some running backs in Keaton Mitchell and Dwayne McBride. Need to point out Nathaniel Dell, solid last name, their receiver out of Houston. Also Sam Laporta, the Hawkeyes tight end, just to name a few. Let's welcome in Pete Prisco. He's here with us in studio, and Brady Quinn joining us from his home headquarters there. So Pete, the captain of your better than team. We got San Jose State, the edge out of there, Viliami Feoko. Now, why is he the captain? I know you think it's because he's violent out there, he's nasty, he's feisty. Tell me more about him.
And I think his best football's in front of him. When you look at him, he's a big physical power player. And you mentioned it, violent and nasty. He takes on everybody. He's not afraid to throw his body around. He's not a twitchy, athletic pass rusher, but he's a power player who also has good moves. And in this league nowadays, you can move him inside on passing downs as well. I think he can stand up and play rush end or down end. He can do so many different things. He did it at San Jose State. I think he's a player whose best football is in front of him.
I'm right there with Pete. You know, I think when you look at his flexibility on defense, which is now really what you have to have to be able to affect the passer. You have to be able to do it in a variety of ways, and I think he can do that. He still needs to work on some of his pass rush moves, but as far as being able to line up at different spots and being able to get to opposing quarterbacks, he checked those boxes. It will be an adjustment, obviously, getting to the next level because you need some of that twitchiness in order to get around the edge where you mostly relied on power. But again, I think you push him down inside, some of that quickness will emerge as compared to having to go out versus tackles on islands. So I like this pick for your captain. You've got a number of guys, Pete, you probably could have thrown as captain on this list, but he's definitely worthy of being so.
And being the captain, it has some past big names when you look at it. Levante David, Jason Pierre-Paul, we have Jimmy Ward, Grady Jarrett. So,
yeah. And I've had a few misses as the captain as well.
We weren't going to get into that.
I mean, if you're going to evaluate players, you have to be honest with your evaluations. And Christian Ponder was once the captain of that team. I didn't draft him. Rick Spielman did, though, so I have that going for me. And there were a couple others as well that didn't make it. But look, you try and get guys down the line a little bit. And so hopefully I think this kid's going to make it and make it big.
We're going to go down the line of your list here. And your next player, we have Baylor defensive tackle Siaka Ika, 6'3", 335 out there. And Pete, you said he was actually close to being captain of this team. So what do you like about him?
He was. I like him. He reminds me of Vita Vea. And when you look at him, he's a big physical guy in the run game. He can also rush the passer better than people think. I know I've argued with guys about that, but I think he's got better ability to move laterally and get up the field a little bit. I think he's going to push the pocket more than some of the scouts think he's going to, and he's going to be a force in the run game. The one knock on him, the one real knock on him, he tends to get heavy. And when he gets heavy, he gets lazy. And when he gets lazy, he can't handle the double teams like he can. So I think he gets into a strength and conditioning program in the NFL. He's going to be in better shape. He has short arms, so that's an issue for a nose tackle, but I think he's going to be a power player. He's going to really clog it up for the run game.
Look, the concern that Pete has, you can make about pretty much any player at this size. He is a massive human being. The frame comp to Vita Vea is fair. I don't see the same type of athleticism, though, out of Siaka. Look, he was an LSU original recruit. He was a part of that 2019 national championship team. Once Dave Aranda left to take the head coach of Baylor, that's when he transferred. And you saw as far as the scheme fit, he did a lot of the things anchoring that defense really at the nose and along the defensive front against the run, more so in the pass, too. And I'm with Pete. He is a better pass rusher than I think people give him credit. but it's really more about the push, being able to push the pocket. That's really where he's key. Those short arms, they come into play a little bit when you're working on your various pass moves. I'm not sure how much he'll be on the field on third down or in must pass rush situations. I think he'll probably be off of the field. He's going to be more of a base down defensive tackle for the most part, or early downs until he either slims down a little bit more or develops some of those pass moves. But either way, a solid player, really strong at the point of attack, a ton of fun to watch. If you ask Dave Aranda, that's where their defense started at Baylor.
You make all the comparisons to Vita Vea, and he has modeled his game off of Vea, so going out there trying to be just like him. All right, we're going to keep it with the defense, and we got Michigan's Mazi Smith next. Pete, you said he could potentially go in the first round. Do you think he could potentially be a Pro Bowler? What do you like?
I would take him in the first round.
Right.
I don't know if he's necessarily going to go there, but I would take him in the first round. If you look at the NFL these days, if you can get inside pressure from dominant players like Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, you can disrupt an offense. And I think everybody's looking for that, a guy who can push the pocket on the inside. This guy's going to be good against the run, but I think he's also going to be able to rush the passer from interior. Some people will dispute that as well. I think he has the quickness to do it. Here's another guy who tends to wear down at times, and there's a knock on him that he doesn't play hard all the time. I looked through a bunch of tape. I didn't necessarily see that. I think he's going to be a really dominant inside player. I think he's going to be a better pass rusher as well on the next level. I would take him in the first round. I don't know if the NFL will take him in the first round.
Pete, I've got him rated as one of the top 32 prospects. You just have a rare combination of size combined with his athleticism. He's a physical freak for his size. And you also saw the flexibility for him to be able to move around along the Michigan front. He's got the pass rush moves that you're looking for. He's also very strong at the point of attack, taking on double teams, finding ways to penetrate in the run game. So I'm with you. I actually mocked him up earlier this week doing a mock draft with Ryan Wilson along with Rick Spielman. Rick seems to keep telling me it's a reach. And look, I guess he would know a reach when he sees one, but I don't feel like that's the case at all. I think Mazi Smith, again, is a rare commodity when you've got that sort of size with the sort of athleticism that you're looking at more of an edge rush defender with the way he can move. So I love this being a part of your better than team. I would not be shocked at all if he doesn't hear his name called on Thursday night in the first round of the draft.
Hey, Brady, please don't give Spielman the credit for that. Come on. We know.
I think Spielman deserves some credit.
Okay. Oh, no, he's been around. He's done it, but doesn't mean he doesn't have misses. It's like directors that direct movies. They have some of their movies stink, don't they? Well, that's the reality of it. Doesn't get them right all the time.
I think that went over your head. Saying that I think he'd know a reach if he saw one. I think you kind of missed it.
Oh, you were taking a shot. Okay.
There you go.
All right. Well, he would also know a reach, by the way.
Oh boy. All right, let's continue on here. And I know Pete always tries to put a later round quarterback on his list. We got UCLA QB Dorian Thompson Robinson there. He's big. There's comparisons to Josh Allen, the combine record for the fastest throw. He was right there with him. So why is DTR your guy?
Well, I think after you get past the first 4 or 5, I think there's a group of guys, and you got to try and figure out who's the next guy that might be able to be a guy and maybe come in and be a backup for a while and then become a starter. And I think he can do it. When you look at his tape, that number, by the way, is astounding, 62 miles per hour. The tape doesn't show that. And I think that's something that's interesting because he does have a good arm, but that would be a great arm. He didn't show that on the tape. But what he did show from college to his pro day, and I went back and watched his pro day, he had a really low, awkward motion in college, I thought, and he's kind of worked on it and made it a lot better, which is really impressive for him from that time frame to be able to do that. And the other thing is, he can move. I mean, this is a guy who can move. I think if you take a flyer on him and you let him develop for a year or two, who knows, maybe down the road. Because again, all those quarterbacks, those later round guys are kind of all lumped in together.
I think the whole miles per hour for throwing is one of the dumbest things that we tend to use and overanalyze in this entire process. He does have an extremely strong arm. It may not always come off that way in tape, but you can see it. I've had a chance to watch him for his entire career, and I think you see a ton of upside. Unfortunately, the thing with Dorian Thompson Robinson was coming in as a highly touted recruit, he never really evolved into what I thought he was going to be. And I just think there's some inconsistencies in his level of play. However, he's in a system that I think is going to help him transition into today's NFL. Pete touched on his athleticism. I mean, he could take off and hurt you, whether scrambling or in the quarterback run game. So he checks those boxes. He's a smart young man. He's matured, and he has improved every single year during his time at UCLA. The thing I can't quite figure out, though, and I think it's more of just his fundamentals, maybe it is tightening up some of his upper body mechanics and his throwing motion, but you just see too many inconsistencies in passing and misses from time to time where he's kind of hot and cold. Honestly, as a former quarterback, sometimes that's just how guys are. Some guys are a bit more streaky like that, and they just got to find a way of being more consistent with the good and less of the bad. And that's a journey that you may never find out. Either way, I think he's perfectly suited for today's NFL and will probably go a lot higher than a lot of people think in this year's draft.
I was able to cover him in the Sun Bowl, and Chip Kelly told me that his team and all the players around him really thrive off of his intensity, which is perfect for the.
And he's not 5'10", 185 pounds like some quarterbacks in this draft, which is a good thing.
That is also a good thing. All right, the next guy on our list, Houston wide receiver Nathaniel Dell. Pete, I got to ask, why are you looking past the height, the weight there? 5'8", 165. Is it because of the last name?
Well, yeah, that's right. Hey, you picked up on that. That's why I put him on there.
That is the only reason.
There was no Prisco, so I put a Dell on there.
I appreciate you.
Tank Dell can fly. That's why I put him on there. This kid can do so many things, and the one thing, you think he's just a speed guy, but he can run routes. He's, talking to receiver coaches, and then you go back and watch him, they rave about his ability to run routes. The other thing, bare minimum, I think he's going to end up being a really good slot receiver, by the way, but bare minimum, you're going to get a return guy. And everybody needs a return guy, a guy who scares everybody. We saw his former teammate, Marcus Jones, do that for the Patriots last year as a return man. And I think you're going to get that same type of return ability from Tank Dell. So I really love this kid. If he was a couple inches taller and a little bit heavier, he'd be a first-round wide receiver.
I don't doubt that. I think Nathaniel Dell and Josh Downs are the two wide receivers in this draft class that don't have the size, but when you put on the tape, they have the ability to separate. They've got extreme speed. In Dell's case, the return ability too. That's a piece of all of it. And look, he's got good leadership skills as far as being a leader on the team, being a good character guy coming to the locker room. He was a captain there at Houston. So I love the fact that he's a part of this group. I think if you ask a lot of scouts, though, you might think that you're higher on them than they are, but I just don't think they're telling you the truth, because I think this is one of those guys they want to keep a secret so they can try to steal him somewhere in the second and third round, and that we don't hear as much about him because of that. So I don't think it's just the fact that he's got the last name Dell, even though that is a nice little coincidence there for Jenny. I think he's a guy who's going to hear his name called early. There's probably going to run on wide receivers like Dell and some others in the second round.
Did you know I could run a 4.49 40 too?
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it a 40 or is it a 10 yards? How far is that?
All right, let's move on. We're going to talk running backs next. I got speed, Brady. All right, two running backs making your list here. So we have UAB's Dwayne McBride and East Carolina's Keaton Mitchell. Only two. What do you like about these guys?
Well, if you look at McBride, he's a guy who knows how to run between the tackles. And when you look at him, you say, okay, he's 5'10 and 210 or 215, and you say, okay, well, where's the big play? We average 7.4 yards per rush. And so he can make the big play. You can see it here on the tape. Look at this. I mean, he just rips off the big runs. He has the ability to make people miss in the hole, and I think that's important. You look at him, he can run over people a little bit. The concern with him, he only caught 5 passes. So he's going to have to learn how to be part of the passing game on the NFL level, but I think he's good. Keaton Mitchell on the other side, smallish back who can fly. Every single time he touches the football, you have to hold your breath. That's how good Keaton Mitchell is. Again, he's a small guy, so there's concern about him. But I think when you look at him on the next level, you got him in on third downs. He can also be a big part of the return game, although he had some fumble drops. But I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be one of those backs. You take him in the later rounds. And people will say, because I know me, I kill running backs. Why do you have 2 running backs? And I could have had more, because this is where you draft these guys, down the road. You don't draft them early. You draft them down the road. Roschon Johnson was another one. The backup at Texas was another possibility.
Yeah, and Roschon Johnson doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on his tires because Bijan Robinson and all the carries that he took over the year, but very capable. And you're probably going to see Roschon Johnson make a team also because of his special teams play, and he's that type of character guy and leader. But talking about Keaton Mitchell, I mean, here's the thing. He is smaller in stature, but you don't see many bell cow running backs in the NFL anymore. So he's a perfect fit for a team to take him, maybe 6th, 7th round. He's that change-up back that you throw in there, a la a Boston Scott maybe for the Eagles this past year. I don't know that he's going to have the impact that Isaiah Pacheco did, but when you think about some of the burst, big play ability, some of the speed that Pacheco showed, that's what Mitchell shows as well on film. And as far as McBride, he's more of that bell cow back. He's more of that back that you're going to put in there. Early downs, he's going to get you some tough yards, staying north and south. He's not a shake and bake type guy. He's going to try to be able to run through you. So he's a player that I think, again, you take in the later rounds, you get a lot of wear and tear out of him, but he's not going to be there on third down. The concerns about him having the ability to catch the football are real. And so I think when he's in there, the hard thing is, unless he develops that portion of his game, it's a dead giveaway to defenses that they're running the football. So he's got to improve that portion of his game.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.